Welcome back to the channel, Rare Coins History, to another exciting journey into the hidden world of rare and valuable coins. Today, we're turning our attention to a small but mighty coin that many people overlook, the United States Roosevelt one dime from the year 1980 with a mint mark. At first glance, it looks just like any other dime you might find in your pocket or in a jar of spare change. But don't be too quick to dismiss it, because this little silver-colored coin could actually be hiding a surprising value that might just blow your mind. The Roosevelt dime has been a staple of U.S. currency since 1946, designed to honor the legacy of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who led the country through the Great Depression and most of World War II. His efforts to establish the March of Dimes, a campaign to fight polio, made the dime the perfect coin to carry his image. The 1980 Roosevelt dime, like others before it, carries this tribute, yet some coins from this specific year and with certain features have gained serious attention from collectors and dealers across the world. Now, why the year 1980? It might not immediately stand out as a landmark date in U.S. coinage history, but it's all about the details. In that year, dimes were minted at multiple locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Each mint left its mark, usually a small P, D, or S found just above the date. But certain dimes from 1980, particularly those struck with specific mint marks or with small, almost unnoticeable errors, have become highly desirable in the world of numismatics. Let's take a closer look. What you want to pay attention to is the condition, the finish, and any unique features on the coin. Coins that are labeled as uncirculated or in mint state condition are the ones that have never been used in everyday transactions. They have no scratches, no discoloration, and sharp, crisp details. These are incredibly rare because most coins from 1980 were used up in everyday purchases, tossed around in change drawers, or simply worn down by time. If you happen to come across one that's in pristine, untouched condition, you might be holding something far more valuable than 10 cents, but there's more. Some rare versions of the 1980 Roosevelt dime have slight minting errors that make them stand out: double dies, off-center strikes, and variations in the lettering or the edge of the coin. These imperfections, which happen during the coin production process, are highly prized by collectors. Because they are rare and unique, error coins like these don't just add interest, they add serious value. Another thing collectors often look for is full bands on the reverse side of the coin. This refers to the horizontal lines on the torch that sits between the olive branch and the oak branch. If these bands are fully visible and well-defined, especially under magnification, it's a strong sign that the coin was struck with great force and precision. Full band examples are scarcer and, therefore, much more valuable. So, how do you know if your 1980 Roosevelt dime is special? Start by checking the mint mark. Look closely above the date. Then examine the condition. Is it clean? Are all the fine details sharp? Look at the torch on the back. Are the bands fully defined? And lastly, keep an eye out for any signs of errors or anomalies. Sometimes, the tiniest flaw can turn an ordinary dime into a collector's dream. These small factors can turn a coin that's typically worth just 10 cents into something far more precious. The world of coin collecting thrives on rarity, condition, and historical significance, and the 1980 Roosevelt dime with the right features checks all those boxes. Now comes the part you've been waiting for. Today's video is going to take you on a fascinating journey through American coinage, as we uncover the story of a small but powerful piece of U.S. currency, the 1981 Roosevelt one dime with a mint mark. This tiny 10-cent coin may seem unremarkable at first glance, but believe me, by the end of this video, you'll be amazed at the incredible value it can hold under the right conditions. Stick around, because what appears to be just pocket change might actually be a hidden treasure. Let's begin by setting the stage. The year is 1981. The United States is facing economic uncertainty. Inflation is rising, interest rates are climbing, and President Ronald Reagan has just taken office. America is in transition. And even though most people weren't paying much attention to what was jingling around in their pockets, the U.S. Mint was busy doing what it always does: producing the currency that fuels the nation's economy. Among the coins struck that year was the humble Roosevelt dime, a coin that had already been a part of American life for 35 years. Now, let's rewind a bit further. The Roosevelt dime was first introduced in 1946 to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt, the only U.S. president elected to 4 terms and a man who led the country through the Great Depression and most of World War II. But his legacy goes beyond politics. He was also instrumental in founding the March of Dimes, a public health campaign that originally focused on fighting polio. That's why it was so fitting for his portrait to appear on the 10-cent coin, a lasting tribute to a leader who helped heal the nation. Fast forward to 1981. The Roosevelt dime was still in circulation, still bearing his profile on the obverse side. But here's where things get interesting. That year, dimes were struck at 3 different mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Coins from these mints are marked with tiny letters, P for Philadelphia, D for Denver, and S for San Francisco, found just above the date. While millions of these coins were minted and used in daily transactions, only a select few have survived the years in truly exceptional condition. Collectors and experts know that when it comes to coin value, the devil is in the details. And the 1981 Roosevelt dime is no exception. What separates an ordinary dime from a valuable one is a mix of rarity, condition, and sometimes even a mistake. Yes, you heard that right. A mistake made by the U.S. Mint can skyrocket the value of a coin into the thousands. That's where things get really exciting. Let's talk about condition first. Most coins are used, exchanged, passed from hand to hand, and inevitably worn down. But a coin that has never been circulated, that is, a coin that was carefully stored away right after it was minted, is considered mint state or uncirculated. These coins show no signs of wear, have sharp details, and retain their original luster. Finding a 1981 Roosevelt dime in this kind of condition is rare, but not impossible. And the cleaner and more perfect it is, the more valuable it becomes. Now, here's where it gets even more fascinating: minting errors. Some 1981 Roosevelt dimes have been found with double die errors, off-center strikes, missing mint marks, or unusual metal compositions. These are not common, and they often occur when something goes wrong during the coin production process. But to collectors, these so-called mistakes are like gold. Because they are so scarce, error coins can command shockingly high prices at auction and in private sales. Another major factor that affects value is what collectors call full torch or full bands. On the reverse side of the dime, you'll see a torch flanked by an olive branch and an oak branch. The torch has horizontal bands, and if these bands are fully defined and separated, without any wear or fading, it indicates a high-quality strike. Coins that feature this level of detail are especially prized, and this small visual difference can make a huge impact on the value. You might be wondering, how do I know if my dime is one of the rare ones? First, check for a mint mark. Is there a small D, P, or S above the year 1981? That gives you an idea of where it was made. Next, examine the coin under bright light or a magnifying glass. Look closely for sharpness in the details: Roosevelt's hair, the torch on the back, the lettering. Are there any unusual features or misalignments? These could be clues that you have something special. It's worth noting that while millions of Roosevelt dimes were produced, only a fraction have survived in top condition. Even fewer have the characteristics that make them truly valuable, such as being uncirculated, having full bands, or containing minting errors. And those that do have all these traits? Well, they can be worth far more than you might ever expect for such a small coin. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. Today, we're taking a closer look at one of those small, everyday coins that could actually be worth a small fortune. That's right, we're talking about the 1985 Roosevelt 1 dime with a mint mark. While it might seem like just another common coin, some of these dimes are quietly hiding in pockets, drawers, and forgotten coin albums, completely overlooked, and yet they're worth far, far more than just 10 cents. Now, let's rewind time for a moment and take ourselves back to 1985. The United States was experiencing major changes. Ronald Reagan was in his second term as president. The Cold War was still ongoing, but tensions were starting to ease. Technology was evolving, pop culture was booming, and the economy was shifting. Through all of this, the U.S. Mint continued its role behind the scenes, striking coins to fuel the nation's daily commerce. Among these were the Roosevelt dimes, part of a coin series that had already been in circulation for nearly 4 decades. The Roosevelt dime was first introduced in 1946 to honor Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the 32nd President of the United States. Roosevelt wasn't just known for guiding the country through the Great Depression and World War II, he also inspired the March of Dimes, a campaign that helped to eradicate polio, the disease that afflicted him personally. It was only fitting that a coin representing dimes, the very coin at the center of that cause, would bear his face. Over the years, the design has stayed consistent, featuring Roosevelt's profile on the front and a torch with olive and oak branches on the back, symbols of liberty, peace, and strength. So, what makes the 1985 Roosevelt dime so special? After all, it's not especially old, and millions were minted. But that's where the beauty of coin collecting comes in. Rarity isn't just about how many were made, it's about how many survived in pristine, untouched condition. It's about errors, variations, mint marks, and the tiny details that make one coin ordinary and another absolutely extraordinary. In 1985, Roosevelt dimes were struck at multiple mints, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Each mint placed a small mark on the coin, usually a P, D, or S, just above the date on the obverse side. These mint marks are important. They tell you where the coin was made, and for collectors, they often hint at how rare a particular version might be. For example, the San Francisco Mint produced proof coins, specially made for collectors, with polished dies and sharp, mirror-like finishes. These were never meant for general circulation, so finding one in change would be incredibly rare, but even regular dimes from 1985 can carry immense value under the right circumstances. The key factors: condition, strike quality, and minting anomalies. Let's break that down. First, condition. Coins that have never entered circulation and have been preserved in near-perfect state are referred to as mint state or uncirculated. These coins show no wear from handling, no scratches, no fading, and crisp, detailed surfaces. Most coins you find in circulation have been through a lot, they've been dropped, scraped, and exposed to the elements. But if a 1985 dime somehow avoided all that and was tucked away, untouched since the day it was minted, it could be worth much more than its face value. Next up, strike quality. One of the most sought-after details on a Roosevelt dime is something called full bands. This refers to the horizontal lines across the torch on the reverse of the coin. When these bands are fully defined and clearly separated, it's a sign that the coin was struck with high precision. Collectors value full band dimes because they're harder to find, especially from certain mints and in certain years. In 1985, full band examples are particularly rare, especially in high grades. Now, here's where things get really interesting: mint errors. Sometimes, coins come off the press with small mistakes. A double die error, where the coin design appears to have a shadowed or doubled look, can dramatically increase a coin's value. Off-center strikes, missing mint marks, wrong planchets, or even die cracks, each of these errors creates a one-of-a-kind coin. And collectors are always willing to pay top dollar for these rare anomalies. If you happen to own a 1985 Roosevelt dime with a minting error, especially one that's in excellent condition, you could be holding a very valuable piece of American coinage history. Another hidden factor that adds value is eye appeal. Some coins, even if they're technically the same grade, just look better. Maybe it's the toning, the natural coloration that forms over time. Some dimes develop a rainbow-like sheen, especially when stored in certain environments. That patina can make a coin more visually appealing and, as a result, more desirable to collectors. So how do you know if your 1985 Roosevelt dime is worth anything? First, check for the mint mark. Then examine the condition. Does it look brand new? Can you see sharp details in Roosevelt's hair and the torch on the reverse? Are the bands on the torch fully visible and well-defined? Are there any unusual features like doubling, missing letters, or alignment issues? Each of these could be the clue that your dime isn't just pocket change, it's a hidden gem. The best way to find out for sure is to have the coin graded by a professional coin grading service. They'll assess the condition, assign a grade, and verify any errors. A high grade combined with a rare feature or mint error could make your 1985 dime one of the most valuable pieces in your collection, or even your entire home. Now, let's get to the exciting part. You've listened to the history, the background, the details, and what makes these coins so desirable. So what is this tiny, lightweight, 10-cent piece actually worth at its best? Today, we're about to unravel a story hidden in plain sight, a story stamped onto a small, silver-colored coin that most people never think twice about. That's right, we're talking about the 1974 Roosevelt 1 dime with a mint mark. This tiny coin, easy to overlook, might just be one of the most unexpected keys to unlocking real value in your coin collection. So, before you toss that old dime into a vending machine or back into your change jar, you'll want to hear this full story. Because if you happen to be holding the right version of this coin, especially in excellent condition or with a rare minting error, it could be worth a shocking amount of money today. We're not talking about just a few dollars. We're talking about thousands. But let's not jump ahead. Let's begin where it all starts. Picture the United States in 1974. The country is at a turning point. Richard Nixon has just resigned from the presidency after the Watergate scandal. Gerald Ford steps in to calm a nation rattled by political upheaval. Inflation is rising. The Vietnam War is winding down. And in the middle of this chaotic time, the U.S. Mint quietly goes about its business, producing coins that will pass from hand to hand, day after day, seemingly unnoticed by most, but not by us. Among those coins is the Roosevelt 1 dime. First introduced in 1946, this coin carries more than just monetary value, it carries historical significance. It was created to honor Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the 32nd President of the United States. Roosevelt didn't just lead the country through the Great Depression and World War II, he also spearheaded the creation of the March of Dimes to fight polio, the disease that affected him personally and countless others. The dime, bearing his profile, became more than currency, it became a tribute, and by 1974, the Roosevelt dime was already an established part of American coinage. The obverse of the coin features Roosevelt's left-facing portrait, his name, the word liberty, and the national motto, "In God We Trust." Flip it over, and you'll see the torch symbolizing liberty, flanked by an olive branch for peace and an oak branch for strength. This powerful symbolism encapsulates everything the dime represents: freedom, endurance, and unity. But what makes the 1974 Roosevelt dime stand out among all the others? After all, millions were minted that year. And that's true. They were produced in massive numbers across several U.S. mint facilities, primarily Philadelphia, no mint mark, Denver, D mint mark, and San Francisco, S mint mark, usually for proof coins. Most people think that high mintage automatically means low value. But that's only half the story. The real value of a coin often lies in what survives, not in what was produced. You see, most of those dimes have been circulating for decades. They've been through cash registers, piggy banks, laundry machines, glove compartments, and vending machines. They've picked up scratches, dings, and corrosion along the way. But a small percentage, just a tiny fraction, have survived the years in pristine, untouched condition. These are the coins that collectors chase. These are the ones that auction houses and private buyers fight over. These are the ones that could make you thousands of dollars richer. So, what exactly should you be looking for in your 1974 Roosevelt dime? Start with the mint mark. Flip your dime and check just above the year. If you see a small D, that's from the Denver Mint. An S means it was struck in San Francisco, and no mint mark means Philadelphia. While most of the dimes from 1974 are quite common, certain ones, especially from Denver and San Francisco, have emerged with unique characteristics that make them significantly more valuable. Now, onto condition. In coin collecting, condition is everything. A coin that looks like it just came out of the mint, no scratches, full luster, sharp details, is considered uncirculated or mint state. These coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with coins graded MS 65 and above considered highly desirable. The higher the grade, the rarer the coin, and the more valuable it becomes. Next, look for full torch details on the reverse side of the dime. This is sometimes referred to as full bands. These are the horizontal lines that wrap around the torch. If those lines are fully visible and separated, it means the coin was struck sharply and hasn't worn down. Full bands are not easy to find, especially on coins that are over 4 decades old. When collectors find a 1974 dime with full bands in high grade, they're willing to pay a premium, but here's where things get especially intriguing: error coins. The U.S. Mint, despite its precision and reputation, occasionally produces coins with mistakes, known as minting errors. These mistakes can range from small doubling of letters, known as double dies, to off-center strikes, to coins struck on the wrong type of metal planchet. One of the most fascinating kinds of error found on Roosevelt dimes is the missing mint mark error. A 1974 dime that should have a mint mark, but doesn't, especially from San Francisco, can be incredibly rare. Combine that with a high-grade uncirculated condition, and you're looking at something exceptionally collectible. Collectors and dealers alike are constantly hunting for these types of coins. Many of them are buried in old coin jars, tucked inside forgotten change purses, or sitting silently in estate collections. These coins don't announce their value loudly. They don't shine like gold or glitter like gemstones. But in the right condition, and with the right features, they can be worth more than a handful of silver, and there's something poetic about that. That a coin, small enough to be lost between couch cushions, can carry so much value, not just financially, but historically and symbolically. The 1974 Roosevelt dime represents an era of transition, a tribute to a president who fought both disease and war, and a reflection of the people who used it every day without ever guessing what it might one day be worth. So now, as you look through your change, remember this: it's not always the flashy things that hold the most value. Sometimes, it's the overlooked, the familiar, the ordinary, that turns out to be truly extraordinary. Today's journey takes us into the life of a coin that's smaller than a quarter, lighter than a nickel, and often ignored as pocket change. But this little 10-cent piece holds a secret. We're talking about the 1991 Roosevelt 1 dime with mint mark, a coin that many people think is ordinary but has, in rare cases, sold for more money than the average car. So don't blink, because this could be one of the most surprising coin discoveries you've ever seen. Before we dive deep into what makes this coin so valuable, let's start by stepping back in time. The year is 1991. The United States is in a transitional moment. The Gulf War is making headlines. The internet is just beginning to creep into American homes. Grunge music is taking over the radio. George H.W. Bush is in the White House. And while the world is changing at a rapid pace, one thing remains steady: the U.S. Mint continues its long-standing job of producing the coins that keep America running. Hidden within that year's production was the Roosevelt 1 dime. Tens of millions were made. People used them for parking meters, vending machines, toll booths, and even laundry machines. But here's the twist: buried among the common coins were a select few that would go on to become collectors' dreams. The Roosevelt dime has been in circulation since 1946, a tribute to the 32nd President of the United States, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. His fight against polio, his leadership through the Great Depression and World War II, and his creation of the March of Dimes, a campaign to fight childhood diseases, made him a beloved figure. It was only fitting that the smallest denomination in the U.S. currency system would carry his image, and since that time, the design has remained mostly unchanged. The obverse, or front, of the dime features Roosevelt's left-facing portrait, with the words, "Liberty, in God we trust," and the year of minting. On the reverse, a torch stands proudly between olive and oak branches, representing liberty, peace, and strength. This beautiful, symbolic design has become part of everyday life for most Americans. But the truth is, not all dimes are created equal. The 1991 Roosevelt dime, in particular, has quietly become one of the most interesting pieces for modern coin collectors. Why? Because although it was produced in massive numbers at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints, only a tiny fraction of these coins remain in exceptional condition today, and a microscopic percentage possess rare features that elevate their value astronomically. Let's break this down. First, we need to talk about the mint marks. These are tiny letters stamped onto the coin to indicate where it was made. For the Roosevelt dime, the mint mark is located just above the date on the obverse side. A P stands for Philadelphia, D for Denver, and an S for San Francisco. Most people never even notice this tiny letter, but for collectors, it can mean everything. The coins struck at San Francisco, especially the proof coins, were made with polished dies and blank planchets, intended for collectors and never meant to enter general circulation. These coins are often stunning in their finish, with mirror-like surfaces and razor-sharp details. But occasionally, a few of these find their way into circulation by accident, and that's where the fun begins. Now, let's talk about condition, one of the biggest factors in determining a coin's value. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70. Anything above 65 is considered mint state or uncirculated. That means the coin has never been used, never been in someone's pocket, and still looks just as perfect as the day it left the mint. The difference in value between a coin that grades MS 63 and one that grades MS 68 or MS 69 is enormous. We're talking about a leap from a few dollars to tens of thousands, and then, we have what collectors love the most: errors and varieties. Yes, that's right, sometimes mistakes are more valuable than perfection. A 1991 Roosevelt dime with a double die error, where the image or letters appear slightly doubled, can be worth many times its face value. Coins with off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing or pushed to one side, are even more valuable. There are also examples of dimes from 1991 that were struck on the wrong metal planchet, or ones that are missing a mint mark entirely. Each of these anomalies adds to the rarity and uniqueness of the coin, and collectors will go to great lengths to find them. Another feature that dramatically boosts a Roosevelt dime's value is known as full bands, especially on coins minted in Denver or San Francisco. Take a look at the torch on the back of the dime. If the horizontal bands wrapping around the torch are fully defined and separated, this means the coin was struck with precision and hasn't lost any detail to wear or weak minting. Full bands are highly sought after, and finding a 1991 dime with this feature in mint state condition is no easy task. It's one of the details that can turn an average coin into an extraordinary one. So where might you find one of these hidden treasures? Believe it or not, you don't have to be a professional coin dealer. Some of the most valuable 1991 Roosevelt dimes have been found in old jars of coins, estate sales, rolls of dimes from the bank, or even tucked away in forgotten drawers. The trick is knowing what to look for. Get yourself a good magnifying glass or loupe, and start examining your coins closely. Check for strong strikes, clean edges, clear mint marks, and any signs of doubling or misalignment. If you find something that looks unusual, it might just be worth a second opinion, and if you really think you've found something special, the next step is getting the coin professionally graded. Major grading services like PCGS or NGC can authenticate the coin, assign it a grade, and certify its value. A coin in average condition might only be worth 10 cents, but that same coin in near-perfect condition, or with the right error, could be worth far more than you ever imagined. So what's the takeaway from all of this? The 1991 Roosevelt dime might be small, it might seem ordinary, and it might not catch your eye at first glance. But don't be fooled. Hidden among the millions are a few rare gems, coins with flawless condition, striking detail, or mysterious errors. Coins that are more than just change, they're a piece of history. A quiet fortune. A collectible treasure, and now, the moment you've been waiting for. If you happen to own a 1991 Roosevelt one dime with a mint mark, preserved in flawless uncirculated condition, possibly with full bands or a rare minting error, your little 10-cent coin could be worth as much as $60,000.